Hello everyone and welcome to Rob's Rogues, and today we're going to be talking about Batman Arkham Oranges. No, not oranges. I mean Batman Arkham Origins. Origins. Orange? Origins. This is, of course, the Batman Arkham City Batman Legacy Batman, and I would like to talk to you. This is going to be kind of my way to talk about the Mattel Legacy Edition from the Batman Arkham City. Now that I have all of the principal figures, I kind of wanted to go through and talk about each one of them, and I figured with the first teaser trailer of Batman Arkham Origins, now that I've said oranges, I'm probably going to say oranges all the time. Origins has just been released, and I think on the 20th, a full actual gameplay trailer is going to be out. But this is the first time I've had the opportunity to really look at the whole entire collection of the Mattel figures from the Batman Arkham City line that came out. I have all but two, but they are two repaints, so technically I do have them. And I wanted to be able to go through all of the figures. First up, the first set that we have, I'm bringing, kind of moving some figures off to the side here. The first two-pack that came out was, of course, Batman and Two-Face here. And I loved both of these figures, and I still do. If you go back to Rob's Rogues, and please forgive me, I do not remember the number of the Rob's Rogues video number. I think it's 20-something, maybe even a little lower than that. It actually may be down around 6 or 7 if I remember correctly. But as hard as that video is to watch, since I was early on in my channel, I was really kind of raving about this particular Batman. And I think just because it was new, fresh, and a little different, it wasn't the stock body of the DCUC body that Mattel has traditionally given the figures. And from the first prototype figures that we saw, a lot of people started noticing that the ab joints and things like that appeared to be a little different than the standard DCUC figures, and that was kind of exciting, going, wow, they're just not going to just repaint a Batman and all of the heroes and villains, that they're going to be creating some new body molds. And they in fact did that from the ground up on all of these figures. None of the parts were reused from existing figures, which was really kind of nice and fresh. The capes, heads, belts, everything was completely sculpted just for Batman Arkham City. And one of the things that I still really like is the face on this particular Batman. I think this is a very, very good representation of how he looks in the video game. Now, I do have the DC Collectibles Batman right here, or DC Direct at the time, and you can see the difference in the two figures just in the face. And as much as I love this Batman, I think as far as the face goes, Mattel really nailed the face on this particular Batman very well. There's just something a little cartoony about the face. I've thought about doing a head swap at some point, but the pegs work just a little bit differently, and I don't want to mess up this figure. I'm kind of letting the face go on this one just because the body is just so very well. And we'll kind of talk about the two as we go through this little video here. But the ab joint is completely different than the normal DCUC. Belts, the legs, a lot of the standard DCUC articulation is all represented, that's the big word today, like gymnasium, represented in all the figures save a couple. But there were some things kind of going against some of the figures too, and each one of them have their own little quirks that Mattel was doing a very good job in some areas, but in other areas they kind of dropped the ball or did some sculpting stuff that really kind of made everybody go, huh? Scratching my head here. But I won't go over all the articulation. I've reviewed all of these figures, so you can go back through my channel and look at them. It's just more of an overview and kind of what I think of the line. Now that we're past a couple years of the video game, we're approaching October 25th of this year, getting the next Arkham video game, which will be a prequel. But the cape I thought worked really well. It's not the standard DC-UC cape. I really do kind of like this Batman, but like I was saying, there were some things that kind of have it going against Batman too. This is all the farther his arms were able to go down. The way they have his ribs here and the way his sides are molded, you're not able to get the figure down, his arms down. Now, I have seen some customizers cut away part of this and actually cut away part of, I probably had it off camera, cut away part of here, some do, but I've seen most of them cut away up here underneath the arm, as you won't see it that much, but it's in this piece in here that really kind of stops the arm from being able to go down. It doesn't bother me too much, but it would be nice to have Batman with his arms to be able to go completely straight down, and I know that it is a pain. I have seen some customizers do a very good job. Looks like that arm is about ready to come off there. Never noticed it before. But is this the best Batman that you could possibly get? No. Is it the worst Batman? I don't think so. Something else that DC, I about said DC Collectibles, that Mattel did is that they made the heights, we'll move Harv out of the way here, they made the height scale even to that of the DC Collectibles. So if you were intermixing the two lines and to have them on your shelves, their height scales would be accurate to one another. And this Batman's ears are just a little bit taller, but I think his shoulders are up just a bit, but the overall scale is almost exactly correct. And so if you were somebody that you wanted this Batman to get a Harvey Dent, this is the only, and I was kind of surprised, this is the only Two-Face Harvey Dent from both sets is to get it in the Mattel. I'm kind of surprised, as kind of early on in the video game, the big role that Two-Face kind of played against Catwoman, that DC Collectibles did not, or DC Direct at the time, did not make a Two-Face. It really kind of blows my mind with some of the other characters that they did. I'm glad we have those other characters, but I would have liked to have seen DC Collectibles' version of Two-Face. I was talking about some articulation. He does not turn at the waist at all, and there is no ab crunch. On some figures underneath the jacket you would find that there is an ab crunch. This particular figure there is not. There's no ball joints on this figure. It's just almost a standard action figure articulation with some other accoutrements. The wrist turn coin, the bend at the elbow, legs up. It has a few DC-UC articulation points, but to not have arms that go all the way out, and some funny hand posings, and we'll kind of get into that. But if you basically wanted Two-Face, this particular Two-Face, to go with this Batman, the height scales work very well. So that was a reason why the Arkham figures did not get the DC-UC body mold. As you can see, this Batman is really short compared to Two-Face, and if I bring up the superheroes version, he's even shorter yet. So no, they won't work really well. Now if you have Two-Face kind of standing in the back part of your shelf and move Batman up a little bit, you can kind of see that they do work. You kind of use a little bit of perspective to kind of move your figures around on your shelf, and that'll kind of create the illusion that Harvey is shorter than he actually is. So while we've got Harvey up here, let's bring up the other boys and girls in the band. We'll bring up Batman here, of course. These two figures both came together. Then you have Harley Quinn, which I really do like this figure. Here is Harley. She came as a single figure. Nightwing came as a single figure. We have the Joker, who came in a two-pack. If I get the Joker standing here, pardon me. The Joker came in a 2-pack with Robin. And then you have Catwoman, if she's going to stand. I think, yes, she is going to stand. Came in a 2-pack with this other Batman, the blue sculpted Batman. So I'll just kind of put him behind if he's going to stand. I may have to... It's always one of those things, trying to get your figures to pose for the camera. Not that you can see Batman, but the blue Batman is in fact back there. You can kind of sort of see him. Not that it matters, they're both the same. Maybe we'll do just a little bit of that. Pardon me, guys. There's the blue Batman. And then you have the Toys R Us exclusive, the 70s skin Batman that I've still left in the package because I thought there's really no need to open this up, and I do like this legacy packaging. And I've been saying on my channel, oh, I wish I could kind of keep one of these figures in their packaging. I love the packaging, so I decided, you know what, that is what I'm going to do. So there's the packaging in case you didn't get a chance to see that. So this is, I'm going to keep in his box. Just because there's really no need to have a third Batman out of his box to be standing on a shelf that's not really accurate unless you have, the skin for the game. So this is the look at all of the figures from Mattel. Now somebody may be saying, well, wait a minute, Rob, there's 2 other figures. Yes, there are 2 other figures. There is another Batman and a Catwoman that are in this white and gray and black scale. I was at a Barnes & Noble and a Books A Million. More importantly, I think it was at Barnes & Noble. And they had those 2 figures there. I think they were $18. I almost bought them, and I was going to keep them in their package, but I thought, you know what? I'm just buying 2 other figures that I already have when I really wanted the color versions of them. So I thought, it's going to be a money saver. And I didn't need them at the time. So this is the look at all of the figures here. I think Mattel was off to a good start. I think they did a decent job. Like I said, I think there's some real winners in this package or in this set. The Harley Quinn I like just a little bit better than the DC Direct. I think her face is just a little bit fuller. Her head's bigger. If you kind of look at the head on Harley Quinn, the head of Harley Quinn is bigger than the Joker, as is the Nightwing melon head here is bigger than all of the figures. So I think they kind of missed out a little bit on some sculpting, some minor details here and there, but overall I think the figures are good for what they are. And that's something I've always kind of said. You need to kind of compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges. You want to talk about sculptability. DC Collectibles, or DC Direct at the time, was really the way to go. And I love all the DC Collectibles figures. They are actually my favorite out of the whole Arkham set. But there are some of these Mattel figures that I really do like. The Robin figure is in one of my top Robin figures. I'd like it a lot. Yes, his cape could have been a lot longer. As it was in the video game, they kind of gave him this Red Riding Hood little short cape, which it doesn't work. His cape is supposed to be a little bit longer than that, like it is in the video game. Catwoman, I really like an awful lot. Two-Face, I do like. Yes, his face is kind of purple bubble gum-ish. I've seen some other customizers kind of add some more darks and reds into this, which I've kind of thought about doing to kind of brighten up his face so it doesn't look like somebody just chewed some purple bubble gum and slapped it on here. I mean, he's got the makings of a really good... I mean, this side is really good, and this side they kind of were like, yeah, we'll kind of... Okay, we're done with the sculpting. They could have done a lot more coloring. The Joker, I also really do like. I do not have a DC Collectibles or a DC Direct Joker. He almost looks New 52-ish, like his face has been cut off and sewn back on. like it was in the comics, so I kind of like him for that reason. Yes, he's a little bit taller than the DC UC figures, but a nice Joker, just a different, refreshing Joker. The Nightwing figure, as I'm at the point where I'm about ready to drop everybody. The Nightwing, as much as I like Nightwing being a former Robin, I really wish I would have waited a little bit, because I think I would have passed on this Nightwing. Now, I took this Nightwing to Chicago with me and got a chance to do some, funny little photos, so I'm glad to have a Nightwing that I kind of really don't care about, that I can kind of beat around and take on vacations with me if I don't take a Robin and do funny little things like that. But I think this is a total pass unless you're a huge Nightwing fan and you're a purist and you want to have all of them. The DC Collectibles is a far, far superior Nightwing than this figure. But, it is what it is, as they say. The real testament to the Mattel figures is after a few years, and I start having more and more figures on my shelf, which are the ones that are really going to be staying on my shelf and be with their Arkham cohorts. Definitely Two-Face is going to be there, because up till this point there has not been a Two-Face made by DC Collectibles. This Harley Quinn will probably replace the DC Collectibles one on my shelf, as I'm not going to try and have two. Of course, this Nightwing's not going to be there. I don't have a Joker, so he will get to stay. This Batman will probably end up be going in a box. Definitely the blue Batman back here. Robin is probably going to be hanging around just because I like Robin. Maybe these two will kind of stay on a shelf. And this Catwoman, I do like the DC Collectibles Catwoman, but this Catwoman may actually go up to my DC UC shelf, and she may be kind of in a back row, so she doesn't appear to be taller than the other DC UC figures, as I don't have a actual traditional Catwoman. So this was a line that I liked, but at the same time there's enough things about all these figures that could have been done just a little bit differently. Yes, there's a lot more posability from these figures, but the posability next to the sculpting is kind of a toss of the coin, if you will, for Mattel. I think they were off to a decent start, but certain parts of each one of these figures I don't think were executed quite right. I think Harley is the standout of everybody. Me being a Robin fan, I really want to say Robin. I do like the Robin figure quite a bit. Catwoman is another one that I think is done very, very well. I like her with her goggles down. She actually looks a lot more feminine than the DC Collectibles version. The other thing that kind of bugs me just a little bit is Batman and Robin both do not have an open hand to hold something. Now, Robin does have an open hand here. You can kind of wedge a Batarang. A staff for Robin will kind of fall through, but this hand is basically sculpted to go with this fist, so you get the a la Burt Ward, golly gee Batman. It's kind of how I end up having them on my shelf. If I can get the hands to cooperate here. Now watch, I'm not going to be able to. So as he's standing on my shelf, I usually have him like this. So that is the actual reason why those hands were crafted the way they were, just so he can do that pose. It is what it is. But this was, I haven't had a chance to have all of them on screen. Harley Quinn was the last figure that I was able to pick up. I got her from, I think, Kmart, and I got her for $5. You buy the, $10 gift card thing, and then you can buy, or excuse me, Walmart, and you can get Harley Quinn basically for $5. I don't think they're doing that anymore on Walmart.com. Maybe they are from time to time. That'll come back and forth. But I said all of this and made this long video to say I am extremely excited about Batman Arkham Origins. It's coming out the 25th of this month. We haven't seen any of the game mechanics yet, but DC Collectibles has already announced Black Mask, and Batman in action figure form that you can pre-order from a lot of different places right now. And I'm very excited to add those in with my DCUC, or not DCUC, excuse me, my DC collectibles figures. So it'll be nice to have the Origins Batman right next to this Batman. I think it's going to look very good with them. It's not known yet if Mattel is going to do the same thing and give us another Arkham line of figures. It'll be interesting to see what they do. I kind of doubt it, because I would think Mattel would want to start jumping on the bandwagon very soon. So with them really haven't making an announcement at a toy fair or anything, I highly doubt they will. I know some of us collectors have picked up these figures. I enjoy having them, but I don't know if a lot of them will have the longevity on my shelf. I think the figures on my shelf for probably quite a while. We'll do my top 3 here. Actually, top 4. Of course, I don't have a Joker. Of course, nobody's going to want to stand. Yeah, we'll do it this way. These are the 4 figures, and we'll move Batman out of the way here. These would be the 4 figures I would probably say are the ones to probably get out of the set if you're trying to get them. Now, for some people, if they already have the DC collectibles, maybe pains me to bring Robin off, but these are probably the 3 to probably get. Of course, with getting this Catwoman, you're going to have to pick up this Batman if you buy him in a 2-pack, or you could probably find her pretty cheap on eBay. Two-Face, there is not a DC collectibles version of Two-Face yet, so right now if you want to have an all cast, as you're hearing dogs bark in the background, this would be the way to go. And I think this Harley Quinn beats out the DC collectibles by a mile in my book. So this has been a look at the Batman Legacy Arkham City figures. And that's going to do it for me for this video, as I totally lost my train of thought with the dogs barking and having to shut a window real quick. So maybe you have some of these figures. Let me know what you have thought of these figures, what you're thinking about the video game coming out. And that's going to be about it. So, as always, this is Rob for Rob's Rogues and the Batman Universe signing off saying we will see you guys next time.